Boom! What is up, Waves Capital? It's Royce Jacob. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about how Bitcoin miners are finally seeing some exciting price action for the first time in a very long time. We're going to cover the good, we'll cover the bad, and of course, we will be covering some price targets as well. So let's get into it, you guys. We'll quickly go over each of the topics I want to share with you, and then we'll dive into each one individually. All right, so in front of us is TradingView, where we are not currently looking at Bitcoin miners, but at Bitcoin itself, because ultimately the price action of Bitcoin, as well as the equity markets overall, will heavily dictate that of Bitcoin miners. So we'll kick it off on the charts, talking some BTC. I'll let you guys know how I see the short to medium term playing out for the king. And then, of course, we will move on to the OG Riot Blockchain, and a name that many of us know and love, but we haven't covered in quite a while here on the channel. In my opinion, the number two to Riot being the number one, and that is Marathon Digital Holdings and or Miss Mara. Okay, so BTC, Riot, Mara on the charts, but you guys know the drill. We won't cover the technicals until we establish our beliefs around the fundamentals first. So we do have a few short articles to read over, the first of which is the CNBC Pro article titled "Underwater Bitcoin Miners Are Tuning Up the Selling Pressure on Crypto." So I did want to read over this. Again, I told you guys we'd be covering the bad. So we'll kick it off with the bad. And I don't want to say this is necessarily bad, but this is just a necessary part of the business cycle. I mean, every business, not just in the Bitcoin mining space, but pretty much every business out there, you guys, it's hard times, right? These businesses need to cut their costs, and they need to be as efficient as they possibly can. So we'll cover this, just get a general idea of some of the hardships that are going on in the Bitcoin mining sector specifically, and a lot of the reasons why Bitcoin mining stocks have been struggling so significantly lately. Of course, on top of all the other, just the rain cloud that's been over Bitcoin over the past couple of months, and growth stocks as well. So perfect terrible storm for Bitcoin stocks is finally dissipating. But again, we just have to catch up on what's really going on in this sector prior to moving on to some good news, which is Cointelegraph article coming to Texas. Riot Blockchain announces plans to move New York miners to Lone Star State. So this is a good sign, you guys. I'm sure many of you have heard by now that New York is really battening down the hatches on Bitcoin miners, and they haven't illegalized it, but they're pretty much taking the necessary steps to illegalize it in the distant future. But you guys know good old Texas, where industry is born and where industry is flooding to. So I think it's a good sign personally that Riot Blockchain is moving to Texas. They already have the Whinstone facility there, which is amazing, and I think that this is from a longer term perspective for sure, a very, very smart move on Riot's part. Okay, so we'll read through this guy, and that's pretty much all. Once we read through these two, we will be taking a look at the charts, but before either of those, I do want to read over the very, very short excerpt I wrote on Riot in yesterday's Price Targets newsletter. So, the Bitcoin mining sector, and this is before today's, what Riot close up today? Before today's 16.5% move up. I believe Riot is up a little bit in after hours as well. And Mara up 20, almost 25%. That is bonkers. But again, we will zoom out and take a look at how far down these have come and well to kind of put things in perspective. But hey, exciting times finally to be involved in the Bitcoin mining sector. All right, so anyway, there has been a lot of talk and a lot of headlines covering struggling companies within the space. An increase in the price of energy and a decrease in the price of BTC is a terrible combo for miners. Although Riot isn't one of these struggling companies, it's still affected by the storm cloud above the sector. The strong will be the ones left standing once the dust settles, just like you guys, and I believe Riot will prevail. That said, a little pat on the back, and you guys, we have been playing the growth sector so well lately. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to Waves Gap. That said, I think that Riot can see a close to a 20% move up from current levels, at the very least by mid-July. And definitely beat me to the punch here, but we are very, very close. Okay, so once again, we'll cover Riot and Mara on the charts at the very end. Got some ups and downs to talk, but of course, you guys, if you want to know how I'm personally trading Riot Blockchain, how I'm personally trading all of the growth stocks in my portfolio, Got some very, very exciting call options on deck right now, and I'm very excited to see how these pan out. But literally every single position in my entire personal portfolio that is updated every single trading day during market hours, along with multiple email newsletters rationalizing my trades, explaining my thoughts, letting you guys know whatever I believe is important. Like, this is the third newsletter I send out every morning, and this is the price targets newsletter. So send out multiple charts, multiple price, real-time price targets to you guys. Again, whatever I feel is most relevant to Waves Cap on that given day, along with a complete breakdown of the Waves Capital portfolio. So if you guys want to join Waves Capital for real, $15 a month, $40 for every 3 months, completely up to you. That is going to be the first link in the description box down below, and you can always unsubscribe. So just go check it out. Appreciate it if you do. If not, I appreciate you watching now. Let's get into the rest of the video. Okay, so once again, BTC underwater. I really like that little graphic they chose to use. But Bitcoin prices have fallen so low that the cryptocurrency miners have become sellers, further pressuring the already downcast market. Recent data shows an increase in the amount of Bitcoin moved by miners from the mining pools to crypto exchanges in June, as the price of the cryptocurrency slid from $30,000 to $20,000, according to CryptoQuant. The event, known as miner capitulation, implies miners were preparing to sell their Bitcoin, likely to cover mining expenses or capture greater gains by selling at a price they consider to be overvalued. Quote, given rising electricity costs and Bitcoin's steep price decline, the cost of mining a Bitcoin may be higher than its price for some miners. So when the price of mining a Bitcoin becomes more expensive than the Bitcoin itself, that's obviously very, very bad news for miners, right? And if you don't have the cash reserves, if you don't have that Bitcoin stack, if you don't have liquid during a liquidity crisis, you're screwed, right? And that's what's happening to, once again, not only Bitcoin miners, but many, many small growth companies that may have a lot of long-term potential, but unfortunately, they weren't ready for the curveballs that the macro has thrown at them, and that's just the unfortunate reality, you guys. Just like startups, there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin startups as well, Bitcoin mining startups, and just Bitcoin-focused companies that don't make it out of the other side of this. And that's, again, that just separates the wheat from the chaff, the strong ones from the weak, which may sound harsh, but that's reality, you guys, right? So, quote, with high-profile reports of resignations from mining companies as well as miners that have used their equipment as collateral to borrow money, the Bitcoin mining industry could be under growing pressure. Again, which industry isn't under pressure right now? So I just wanted to share this with you guys. I did think this was interesting. You can go check it out. You can just type it in. This is CNBC Pro. So if you're subscribed to CNBC Pro, you can go check this out. But pretty solid read. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Don't need to go deeper. But those are the key points. And that is a big reason why, if you just kind of zoom out here, Bitcoin miners have. Actually, this is Bitcoin, my bad. But same thing with Bitcoin, you guys. On top of Bitcoin struggling, the equity market struggling, which in itself is enough to put a lot of downward pressure on Bitcoin miners. Yeah, they're just struggling as businesses, which again is no new news. Shouldn't be any new news to anyone who's involved in the markets right now. Okay, so again, we'll cover this right after reading about some Riot Blockchain news. Riot moving rigs from New York to Texas was part of Riot's effort to reduce the firm's operating expenses through lower power costs and eliminate all third-party hosting fees. Short and sweet. Crypto mining firm Riot Blockchain said that it has begun relocating rigs from its New York data facility, with the majority intended to end up in Central Texas. In a Wednesday announcement, Riot said it has transitioned some of its mining rigs from Massena, New York, facility called CoinMint, as a part of the effort to reduce the firm's operating expenses through lower power costs and eliminate all third-party hosting fees. The company said it planned to ship the balance of its S19 miner fleet at CoinMint to Riot's Whinstone facility in Rockdale, Texas in July. So again, you guys, this comes down to the same thing. And Riot is innovating. Riot, you guys know, if I'm assuming you've watched most of my previous Riot videos. If not, hey, if this is your first one, welcome to Waves Cap. But anyway, Riot is my number one horse in the race. I believe in the operators. I believe in their CEO, Jason Les. And just, again, following them since literally 2017 is when I bought my first chunk of Riot stock, and haven't sold that chunk yet. Only been accumulating more since. Actually, I have traded some over the course of that time. But that initial chunk, I do still hold. Okay, so I do feel good about that, and I will be riding it for a lot longer because I believe in their operational ability to execute. Okay, so Riot, again, obviously a good move from a long-term perspective. The the less it costs to mine a Bitcoin, the more profitable that Bitcoin becomes, which at a time like this, when profitability for most miners is scarce, if not non-existent, this is very good. So again, the more profitable your Bitcoin can become, the more profitable you become as a Bitcoin miner, and the more revenue you ultimately generate. Okay, so that's Riot. Good news for Riot. We will be taking a look at good old Riot and Mara as well. But first, let's take a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, if you guys watched that little 4th of July special, I was expecting Bitcoin. I don't know if I was expecting it, but I said it was pretty much a 50-50. I won't say I was expecting it, but there was a 50-50 given the reality that this was a symmetrical triangle pattern. And actually, historically, when you see a symmetrical triangle pattern like this, the pattern usually resolves itself in the direction of the overall trend, which right now is obviously down. Okay, so big fall off a cliff. You could say this was somewhat of a janky bear flag pattern, but nope. In the case that the bears thought that, we got a little bull trap because Bitcoin did successfully break out of the top line of resistance on the symmetrical triangle pattern. Symmetrical triangle pattern. That's a weird tongue twister, but we did successfully break out of the line of resistance on the symmetrical triangle pattern, and now I think it's time for Bitcoin to finally come up. Delete all these just because they get in the way. I think it's time for Bitcoin to finally come up and test a lot of resistance that I've been waiting quite a while for Bitcoin to test, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. But for Bitcoin to test the line of resistance that we've been in, created by the downtrend that we've been in since early April. So I mean, almost three months now, we have been in this downtrend, and boom, touch point here, multiple touch points here, touch point. Pretty much every trader is going to be eyeballing this trend line, and I think that at the very, very least, BTC at the time of recording, we're about like 21.5K, 21.6K. I think we can see another 7% move to the upside over the next day or two to test this. And in the case that we are able to break this significant line of long-term resistance, I do think it's likely that we ultimately make our way up to test the previous lower low. Because once we break this, we're kind of in short to medium-term blue sky territory, because we fell off of a cliff so hard that there's no real resistance or support in kind of this $24,000 to $28,000 region. So in the case that we can break 23,000 at this point, break the long-term line of resistance, and really just close the deal by breaking above 24K, I think that if we can break above 24K, it's going to be a pretty quick climb up to the $28,000 region. You know what? This area is obviously going to come into play just because Bitcoin's so... Bitcoin traders are so focused on the intricacies like this. So I do think that this will come into play because this is technically the lowest level low from this little previous floor over here. So I do think it's possible that we do see some resistance around 26.6. Just again, the touch point on the low of this candle. But realistically, I wouldn't be surprised if we come down at least up to about $28,000. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Of course, what's bullish news for Bitcoin is bullish news for Riot and Mara and all Bitcoin miners across the board. Bitfarms, btbt, not covering those today, but still good companies. Again, I haven't honestly, I don't hold those companies in my personal portfolio anymore. Pretty much tunnel vision on Riot, just because I know in my head for a fact at least that Riot can execute, and Riot still at these levels, around $5. The fact that we were in the high $4 range is absolutely crazy to me, and I'm cool just playing Riot for forever when it comes to a Bitcoin miner, because I know, once again, in my head, that they can execute. All right, so that's BTC. Let's move on to good old Riot Blockchain. Riot was able to come up on today's 16.5% move, staggering. Finally come up and test this green trend line right here. Previous supports did come into play as new resistance. Let's get that a little more refined. So previous support, that is technically it right there. Perfectly tested today. Closed the day actually on this previous line of support, used as new resistance once again. That's That's cool. That's cool in the short term, but I think it's pretty much guaranteed at this point that Riot finally comes and tests this trend line that's even been waiting even longer to test than Bitcoin. So dating all the way back to Riot's mid-November high, all the way up at $46. Crazy how far this has come. Let's actually, because I want to look at Marathon Digital's how much Mara has corrected since the high it's on November. So Riot just since November has seen a 90% correction, which is absolutely staggering. Mara is even worse. We'll see that after once again. But I mean, you guys, the higher you climb, the harder you fall, unfortunately. Do I think these levels can be justified from a long-term perspective? Absolutely not. That's why I'm so adamant in the fact that this is a great buying opportunity right now. But short-term, when I'm talking about just like price targets for you guys and kind of like how I'm dictating my call options in my personal portfolio, I'm really looking at this line of resistance. Okay, so touch point here. Again, every trader in their model is looking at this orange trend line right here, which is the overall macro line of resistance for Riot. And I do think that it's almost guaranteed at this point. Again, given the general upside momentum of equities and Bitcoin, I do think it's pretty guaranteed that Riot over the next session or two, definitely by July 12th, which honestly is kind of conservative given how much momentum we're seeing right now. I do think the Riot can come up at least another 10% to test this long-term line of resistance. In the case that we test this on July 12th, that would take us to about $5.85. I will just say right now, in the case that Riot can break $6, can break this long-term line of resistance, as always, you guys, I recommend you go in here and draw these trend lines for yourself because they do hold significance. And especially if you're trading, obviously keep an eye on it. But if you want to know when we could be looking for some exciting price action, if Riot can break this long-term trend line, then we're off to the races. And of course, I will keep the newsletter and portfolio group posted, keep Waves Cap posted, and I will probably be recording a video shortly after we see that break. Okay, so that's right. Let's close it out with Ms. Mara. Mara, don't really have any price targets here, but I do want to zoom out on Mara. So Mara, I'm in an easy price target right now. I'll just give you guys a short-term price target, and then we can zoom out and take a look at things. So just eyeballing this right here, this is a very, very obvious upside price target for Marathon Digital. So Mara, just because this is the previous floor that we saw in late May, Mara, if we do continue to climb up, which I think is very likely, that would be a 23% move up for Mara, and I'll just put like an $8.60, conservatively $8.50 price target on Mara. Okay, which again is very impressive. There's a lot of potential if you want to trade some options there, but of course that is not financial advice. That's just obvious if you understand options at all. So that said, Mara has seen an even more staggering correction from its November high. So this is a crazy chart to look at, you guys. And I just haven't even been following Mara in quite a while, honestly. This is the first time I've looked at the chart in a while, just because I couldn't not, considering we were up 25%. But again, you guys, Mara has seen the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And again, this happened to Riot because Riot saw its all-time high, and I believe April of 2021 is when Riot saw its all-time high. But Mara saw its all-time high in November. It had that crazy rally, and I was saying for a while, like, this is obviously unsustainable. Got shit on by a lot of people, obviously, because there was so much hype around Mara. People become passionate about their favorite plays. I get it. That's perfect. I'm not saying I care, but it was an interesting time for Mara. And again, when people are getting emotional about plays, it's a very, very good sign of what is probably a top, and it was, okay? But not just in Mara, and pretty much everything. So Mara, from the highs on November to the lows that we have just seen in recent days, Mara has seen a 94% correction, which is staggering. But again, you guys, higher you climb, the harder you fall. Harder you fall, the harder you bounce. I do think a nice bounce is in the cards. And I do think from a long-term perspective, I still think Mara has potential. But realistically, I just don't care about Mara that much. I care about Riot. If you guys love Mara, that's awesome. And I would love you guys to educate me in the comments on Miss Marathon Digital. But Riot is my horse in the race. And this is the stock that I will personally be focusing on. I'll personally be trading. And I'm excited to see what happens over coming week, month, years to come. Okay, so let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Bitcoin miner is, if you're excited about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies right now, and if you've been buying the dips like I have over the course of, this crazy high $4 region. Let me know in the comments down below. And once again, if you want to join Waves Cap and know how I trade on a day-to-day basis, that is the first link down in the description box. So until next time, you guys, always remember, take action. Make waves. Peace.